Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rich. If you're new to the channel, thanks for joining, and if you like what you see, hit the like or subscribe button to get other updates and projects that I might be doing. So today I got a new project and I am up on my roof of my house because we have some leakage happening on the roof. So let me show you what I got and how we're going to go about fixing it. This roof is about 11 years old, and this is an Owens Corning Oak Ridge shingle, architectural shingle, and it's starting to deteriorate. The rest of the roof is not a problem, and I have access to my attic, so I can go and see if I've got any leaks. But this area particularly is leaking. The main culprit, I believe, even though the shingles are starting to show some signs of wear, is the flashing where it meets the siding of the house. So this headwall flashing that's here is potentially capturing water and letting it leak down through. I noticed previously when the roofers put this flat, they reused the old flashing. They did not replace it. So there are holes here that from the previous roofing job where they, obviously used different nails placement for the new stuff. But I added this rubberized caulking that's here. They didn't have that on there, and so water was leaking down through these nails because they never put anything to protect it, to seal it up. And the other thing is it's not sealed behind here any longer, and I'm wondering if water's getting behind here and working its way down in. So we're down in the dining room, and I wanted to show you where the leaks are coming through. The flashing runs right along here, and you can see that I'm getting my leaks, and this is bubbling the ceiling right here, and there's a stain here and a stain there, but there's also stains up there. Hopefully you can see that. Hopefully the chandelier isn't causing issues with your view on that, but you can see that stain. It's a pretty big spot, and then there's another spot there. I could potentially fix just the flashing area and reflash it, and it probably would fix it, but these other areas right here concern me, and so I think I'd rather just go ahead and just tear off the shingles and re-roof it. I think it's just going to end up being easier in the long run than trying to repair some, 10, 11-year-old, 12-year-old shingles. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and start ripping out this flashing and start tearing off the shingles to get this thing ready to re-roof. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is go ahead and remove this flashing. So we're just going to take a pry bar and kind of get these nails up. And begin to just work it all the way across. I've got the decking all prepared. I got all the nails out and I swept it off as best I could to have a nice clean surface, because I'm going to be putting ice and water shield on the decking. This roof decking, the main one, doesn't have a drip edge on it. Not sure why they never put one on there. I'm going to go ahead and add a drip edge to this deck area. The school of thought of at the eve of the roofing, you should put the drip edge on first and then cover it up with your ice and water shield, so that as the water runs down, it will go over top of the drip edge and not maybe go underneath it. To make sure that I've got the decking fully protected, I'm going to cut a slice of probably 2/3 of this length here, so maybe a foot here, and then have 2 feet. So this 1 foot section I'm going to run along the eave right now, and then I'm going to put my drip edge on, and then after that I'm going to take this 2 foot section and go over top of the drip edge, so that I'm going underneath, but I'm also going over top. So when I put the rest of the underlayment on, it's going so that the water flows downward. So you shouldn't have any issue at all. It's just a little bit extra protection. Probably don't need it, but I'm up here, I might as well go ahead and do it while I'm up here. So, but the first thing we need to do is go ahead and lay this out, and then I'm going to go ahead and slice it so that I can put the small piece on. So this 1 foot piece section that I'm putting on, I have crown molding on my fascia board, and I want to kind of wrap it onto that crown molding, and then I'll put my gutter over top of it. You're not going to see it because the drip edge is going to be there and the gutter is going to be there, so I'm not really worried about seeing that. I just want to be able to protect it all the way through. The main thing that I'm trying to work on as I'm doing this right now is just making sure that I've got it straight and it's not, at an angle, and it's, getting, that it's not shallower. I have enough of a lip on this side so that it's just straight, and my overhang lip is fine, because my cutting with the knife was not perfect, so I'm using this bottom edge as my guide. And then I'll overlap with this piece, this kind of weird shaped cut that I've got. It's not perfectly straight, so as long as I overlap it by 3 inches, should be fine. But as you get it laid down, you just want to kind of peel this paper away, and then we can stick it down. I've put the drip edge on, and it's out by a finger length, so maybe a 3/4 of an inch away from the fascia board is where you'd want it, and you just want to tack it down like essentially like every 12 inches or so. So I gotta cut a piece of drip edge for this little section right here, because I don't need all of it, and you only need to overlap it by maybe 1 inch to 2 inches at the most. So now that I've got it cut, a way to get it to where it fits flush right there at that edge, right here at this point, because this point tends to want to kick out a little bit when you put it on there, is to cut a little V-notch right where this point is, and that will allow this thing to fit a little bit more flush. So you just kind of cut it right there, and then cut another one right here, and that will allow it to fit a little bit better. So the best thing to do is just to okay, so now we can go ahead and put this piece on over top of it so that it's protected, and then the next piece will be over top of this and it'll go right off. But if it ever comes back, this wood will be protected that's underneath this drip edge. So the best thing to do is peel off this section. To fit. So I'm trying to make sure that the ice and water shield is straight across the deckings, because once you glue it down, you can't lift this stuff up. It's almost impossible to get it up. So you don't want to peel the plastic backing off until once you got it straight. So because the bottom edge of this is kind of a bad cut, because it was a hand cut that I did, I'm just making sure that I'm measuring from the drip edge up 2 feet, and I made a mark, down here for 2 feet, so that I know I need to line up the edge of this top edge with those marks, so that I know that I'm straight all the way across. And if I'm a little long on the drip edge side because my cut's a little off, I can just trim that excess off. Okay, so that's on there. I need to pull that strip, but I'll pull it from the ladder side. So we can keep going by adding another roll here. And we're just going to use this little 3-inch strip as a guide to keep us straight as we go up. So I've got this lined up, and it's overlapped by 3 inches on this side. So we just need to go ahead and unpeel this corner and kind of glue it down so it's kind of stable, and then you can adjust it as you roll it out a little bit to see if you're straight. And you can make adjustments on this little corner, but if you lay out the whole thing, then you end up having a bunch of problems. So I just like doing a little section, and we can kind of lay that down and kind of stick it a little bit, and if we have any issues we can adjust it. But once you start rolling it out, you can kind of see if you're starting to get crooked. And if you're starting to get crooked, you can kind of adjust it. But it doesn't look too bad. And now we'll just pull a little bit more. That way we can glue this down. So now we can go ahead and trim this piece to length. So I know that it's probably going to be right here. So I'm just going to cut an edge all the way down. It doesn't have to be perfect, but and you don't want to go too deep because you don't want to cut the next row. Okay, so I ran out of battery, so I apologize for not videoing this last section, but I do want to share with you what I did. So I ended up cutting this piece a little bit shorter, and then I left a little bit of the plastic backing so that I could slide it up underneath the shingle so that the sticky part wouldn't get caught, and it was easier to slide up in there. But this is sticky here, so it stuck to that. So once I slid it up in there, I was able to kind of press it into place. Same thing as I was able to glue, notch this area so that it's sealed, so as water comes down it will not penetrate like it was before. So now, after I did that, I was able to get the drip edge on the side done, and on this side as well. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is you can make this squared off, but I put it at a 45 just so that as the starter courses and the other courses, you don't get much of a lip on the last part of the shingle. It just makes it flow a little bit better so you don't see bumps. So hopefully this helps for the future, because I didn't have it before, and actually keeps the water away from the siding on both sides. So we're at a point where we can go ahead and begin to start putting the starter courses down. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And the first thing that you need to do with the first course, you want to remove 6 inches from this side. So you want to take the starter course piece and you want to slide it over 6.5 inches, and then you can cut that off. So that way when you put your shingle out, you got a full shingle and the joints are staggered. So we're going to go ahead and start putting the starter shingles across the bottom, and then once we go across the bottom, we'll go up the sides, up the rakes. So these starter courses are designed to be separated, so you don't use the full course. These are the starters, and this glue area or tar area that faces down, so that when you put your first course of shingles on, the first course of shingle will glue to this starter shingle. Alright, so what you want to do is when you put this first course on, I'm going to put it to where it's a 1/4 inch over the drip edge on both sides. You can make it flush it with the bottom, but I want to have a little bit of an overhang because I am going to be going into my gutter, and I just want to make sure that there's a little bit of an overhang on it. And you want to do five. You want to be 2 inches up from at least 2.5 inches up from the eaves, and at least 1 inch over, but I need to be more than 3 inches over so that I can actually bite into the sheathing, because otherwise I'm going to be getting into the crown molding and stuff like that. So Alright, so same process for the rakes. We'll lay this over top, and we're just going to do a 1/4 of an inch reveal. All the perimeter's done, and we're ready to do the main body of the roof. So we're starting to lose light, so I think I'm going to wrap it up here for tonight, and we'll start early in the morning and try to finish this up tomorrow. Okay, so we're back at it today, and we're getting ready to start putting the first course of shingles on the roof. So to kind of recap what we did yesterday, we put the starter shingles on, and when we did that, we cut off 6.5 inches off this edge so that it is staggered, so that we can start with a full shingle on this first course, and that provides us a 6.5 inch gap or stagger between the end of this shingle and the starter shingle. That way this area overlaps this joint so that water can't penetrate. And so we're going to go ahead and start with this first course, and you just want to line it up with the starter shingle so that it is flush on the rake and on the eave. And I'm using Owens Corning's Duration Series shingles. This is an estate gray, and it's basically matching my Oak Ridge estate gray that I had previously. They didn't have Oak Ridge at the supply house. It's a little bit higher level shingle, and it also provides this sure nail technology, which is basically just a materialed strip that goes along the center, and allows you to have a good idea of where you want to place your nails. So you want to make sure you're placing your nails within this strip, and that gives you much better wind resistance because it doesn't pull away in high winds situations. So let's go ahead and get this nailed. So I'm going to be nailing it in a four nail pattern, 1 inch inside. You got to give yourself 1 inch from the edge and 1 inch from the edge here, and then you want to go 12 inches from this nail, so that when you have your stagger, there won't be any nail placements where the next joint is. So you don't want to be you don't want water running over a nail that you've placed in there. Now, if you're going to a 6 nail pattern, you do the same thing, 1 inch on the inside to each edge, but then you would go 12 inches in, and you would basically put 2 nails here, very relatively close to each other, within like 1.5 inches of each other, and then 12 inches in, 1.5 inches of each other, to give you six nails total. I don't necessarily need to do that for my area. I'm not on the coastal areas to where I'm getting super high winds all the time, so I'm just going with a 4 nail pattern. So let's go ahead and get this first one nailed up, and I'll give you an example. So we're pretty close to where we want to be. And now we go 12 inches in, and that's going to be right about here, and right about here. And that's good. And you want to make sure your nails aren't driving down too deep, or that are raised up. You want to make sure they're nice and flush and level, so that over time they don't puncture the next shingle above it, because that can cause leaks too. So you want to make sure that it's at the right depth. It's not too deep, but it's not sticking up either. And you don't want it kind of off-centered. You want them flush and flat. So it's good to kind of, if you need to, if you have one bad one, if you're, for whatever reason, you're kind of at an angle and it drives a little bit funny and it's not quite flat, it's good to have a hammer nearby just to kind of make sure that you've got it before you put the next course on. So now that we got the first course of shingle on, we want to go ahead and start our stagger before we start running all the way across. So I've already pre-cut these, but you want to essentially cut off for the next course up, the second course up, you want to take off 6.5 inches off of the side. And that gives you a 6.5 inch stagger here. And then on the next course, you want to take off 13 inches so that you have a 6.5 inch gap. And then the next one is 19.5 inches, and then from there you keep going 6.5 inches in until you get to the sixth course, so that you have a stagger. And once you do that, then you can go ahead and repeat the process. So the seventh course is going to be another full shingle, and then you work your way up as you go. So we're going to go ahead and do these first 6 courses so that we've got our starting pattern, and then we can start running it across. So the next one is going to be this one here, and you just want to make sure that you line it up with the edge, and you want to make sure that the edge of this one lines up with the edge of this reveal right here, so that it's nice and straight. And you got your reveals there, and so we can go ahead and put a couple of nails in. And once you get this one in place, you can adjust it before you put the second one in. And once you put the second one in, then you're kind of set. So we'll go ahead and go. The main thing to know is you want to have 12 inches on this side, because this is where your stagger is going to be. Over here, you're going to have to really worry about it too much, because as you get smaller and smaller shingles, you kind of have to play with that spacing, you know, to put your 4 nails in. So you just want to make sure that you get 12 inches here, and then you can play with the other one. So we can go ahead and put it right about here. So we've got it. For the next course, so now we've got this 5th and 6th course that we can go ahead and nail up. And you just want to make sure that you're flush with the edges, so we can go ahead and nail this off. Now that nail's pretty close. I should have actually put it over on this side, and I didn't do that. So that's not ideal. So don't do that. It's not perfect. It's about an inch and a half to 2 inches away, which is not terrible, but ideally I probably should have put it over on this side. Or just a little bit closer to the other one, but just keep that in mind as you're getting close to there, so you can see what this course looks like. Ooh, that's a double nail there. Okay. So now we've got the first 6 courses we can begin to put full shingles across and work our way across the roof line. And once I get a full shingle here, I can put a full shingle up above it, and then we'll have our stagger again, and we'll just work our way up to the top. But things to keep in mind as you're putting full shingles and working your way across the roof is just making sure that you're straight. You want to make sure that you're not working your way down or anything like that. So the best thing to do is either put a chalk line if you feel like you need a chalk line, and then also using the edges of this shingle as a guide to make sure that you're lined up and you're flush with that. Then that will certainly keep you straight as you work your way across. So let's go ahead and keep going and get as much of this as we can done today, because I think we're going to get a rain this evening, so I want to get it completed. Now we're on the other side and finishing up the other end. So similar to what we did on the first course, obviously you're taking off 6.5 inches and then staggering successively. On this side, you have to measure out the distance from the edge of the rake to the last shingle, and then just cut a piece to fit that spot. So in similar fashion, I did this. So same as before, you want to line up with the bottom starter and line up with the rake edge and nail it into place. So we're going to go ahead and nail these on and then work our way up and finish up the other end doing the same thing. But let's go ahead and nail this off. Now we can do the next one, following the same principles that we did before. This one's actually a little short, so we're going to cut this again because I don't like that. Okay, I recut a piece, and now it's a little better. So we can go ahead and nail this one on. Hopefully this one lines up. That looks good. I guess I just need to make sure you're measuring twice and cutting once. Okay, and now I can put a full course here, and then I'll have a little small piece on this edge probably. So we'll just keep moving forward. Hopefully you can hear me. All my neighbors, everybody's blowing leaves, so it's pretty loud out here. But in any case, as you get close to the top, I can't put a full shingle up here, so I end up having to cut them down. So the way to measure it off is looking at the reveal of where you want the bottom of the shingle and measure up till it comes to contact with the wall. And mine says it's about 11 1/4, but I'm gonna make it 11 inches just to give myself a little bit of gap. So I cut all of them all the way down at 11 inches wide, and now I can just run a course to kind of fill this in. But then I need to do another one that's going to be real kind of long and skinny to be able to do this top area before I put the flashing on. So I'm back at it today, and I was able to finish up all the rows, the top row of shingles, and now I'm ready to put some flashing on the roof. I took a roll of 25-foot flashing and stretched it out to 15 foot because I wanted a solid piece across this whole area. Because if you recall, where the two pieces met of flashing, that's where I was getting all my rot at. So I want to make sure that I have a full piece. And so I started this morning tucking up the piece that I bent up underneath the last siding board. So I've already got it set up to where it's kind of tucked up underneath there. I'm just in the process of cutting this piece out so it's trimmed out and will fit up nicely, and it's not kinking up the flashing, and so that it'll lay flat. Unfortunately, I tried painting it with some flat black paint, but it is starting to come up because I guess the aluminum is just so smooth and shiny, and it just doesn't have enough to stick to. I'll probably try and touch it up after I do all my movements, because me bending and moving around with this stuff is causing it to crack, so I might just touch it up afterwards. But in any case, what I'm trying to do is finish trimming this area. I started trimming it, but it's still a little bit too tall, so I need to kind of trim off this little area. It's not quite as straight as I'd like it, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and then try and fit it up into place. And now I've got a couple of these sheet metal screws that have a little rubber washer on it, and I'm going to go ahead and put like 3 screws across here to keep that tight up against there, so that water hits this and doesn't try to get in behind there. Alright, so I was able to get it finally tucked up into place. What a pain it was. If I had to do it over again, I would recommend getting a little bit thicker gauge aluminum, something a little bit heavier duty, because this stuff bends so much that trying to tuck it up underneath the siding was just really difficult. And once it gets bent all up, it becomes impossible to try to tuck it up underneath there. I mean, it certainly makes it easier to kind of snip away, but wow, it was tough. I was able to get the screws underneath there placed, and it's got rubberized washers to kind of keep it sealed somewhat. But rather than putting screws, I've seen people put similar rubberized washers on with screws into the decking to hold this down. I don't really want to introduce holes right here. I'm okay right here because I don't think it's somewhat protected by the windowsill. I mean, I know water will potentially get there, but uh, we're gonna seal it up. I am gonna use some rubberized flashing cement to essentially glue underneath here in like every 12 inches or so, and just put a glob of cement, and then stick it down. And hopefully once it seals and I'm gonna put some weight on it so that it will stay down, and hopefully once that cures, it will solve the problem, and it'll basically keep it down, but not introduce any holes into the flashing itself. So that's the next step. We're gonna go ahead and open this up and start putting it down, and then I'm also going to cover up the screws with the rubberized cement just as a precautionary measure. Just want to be sure that I don't introduce any leaks if possible. So now I'm going to add a little bit of this cement right here, right where the seam meets. Just to be sure that we don't get any leaks. And then on the other side as well, just to be safe. So I think the steps that I took by putting the ice and water shield underneath it and going up the siding, and then also applying a metal flashing on top of it, and then not introducing any screws or nails to the top that could potentially cause leaks in the future. I'm just using this glue to be able to kind of keep that set down. So hopefully this solves my issue, and I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, hit the like or subscribe to get other videos that I might be doing. All right, folks, I think that's going to do it for this one. I will see you on the next video.